Well, all right. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. Good day. Happy Thursday. Got people coming into the room. We are going live on Facebook as well.
All right.
And
hello, everybody.
This is Thursday's Roundtable Mastermind. My name is E.R. Wolf. I'm here with Elify, and we take an hour every Thursday to get together and to just talk about a general topic in an open forum where we can all ask questions, share tips and tricks, and really support each other. So if you are joining us today, a few ground rules for the live Zoom. There is a reactions feature in Zoom that you can hit and raise your hand if you do want to come on and ask a question, talk, contribute, give a tip or a trick. We do encourage you to do that, use those reactions, and we'll call on you and you can speak forward. If you don't feel like coming on live, we do have a chat in Zoom. You can use that chat option to put in your questions as well there. If you are joining us live, take an opportunity to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're joining from. Go on ahead and post your digital business card. We can all take an opportunity to network. I've just thrown mine in as well, and I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you if we haven't connected yet. I'm joining us live from colorful Colorado, although I'm looking outside and it is white, it is cold, and we got about 5 inches of snow last night. So it is pretty crazy out there, but I'm thankful to be bundled up and warm inside and taking and sharing some time with you guys today. And I think that brings me to today's conversation and today's topic. Hey, Kathy, thanks for dropping in that link. I hope it's a lot warmer in Texas where you're at, and happy St. Patty's Day. So hopefully everybody's got a little bit of green on somewhere. Ruben, good to see you. Greg, great to see you. Hi, everybody. Okay, today's topic and the topic for the week. Time freedom. Time freedom, and what does it mean to you? And how do you get it? All of those types of things. We've been talking about this since Monday. We had a general conversation when we went through sprint planning about time freedom and really making that plan so that you can free up time. On Tuesday for Tech Tuesday at 2, we talked a little bit about time freedom and creating time in our businesses, not just doing work for work's sake, but creating some efficiencies in our businesses and how we leverage technology to free up time. But today, let's just get into the topic. Before I go on some long-winded comment about time freedom, I just want to throw it out there. If anybody has any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything like that, that they want to contribute. Sanders, good to see you. Iowa, how's it out there? Good? Cold? Warm? I bet. Well,
it is warm today.
Say, what was that? Go ahead.
It is warm today. We're up at about 45, 47 degrees, something like that. Very nice.
Ooh, I wish we were getting 45, 47. I think it's topping out right under freezing here. And it's crazy because I think on Tuesday we had 70 degrees, and that's just part of the Colorado swing in our crazy weather. They say if you don't like it, just wait 5 minutes, and feels like that today. Guys, let's talk about time freedom. You know, my first introduction to this was very early on, probably when I was in my late teens, and I was presented a few different books as I went down my own personal journey and started looking into things and seeing, is there a better way? Is there a different vehicle to get from point A to point B? And I mentioned this on Monday briefly. And I think one of the things that we all think about when we step back and we look at this, and I'm going to sort of be a bit morbid in my discussion today, all we get when you think about it is a dash between two dates. Like, take a minute to sit back and think on that, right? All we get in this life is a dash between two dates. And the question is, what are you going to do with your dash, right? What are you going to do with your dash? And the way I like to think about it, I was on with a very successful multi-million-dollar earner, and she was telling me, you know, one of the things that helps her think about how she invests her time is she actually has a little jar, And in that jar, she has two jars, and in one jar, she has marbles stacked up. And she said, these marbles represent the years available in my life, based on the average that we're all apportioned. And maybe that's 85, 90, whatever it is, it's a little bit different for all of us. But, this is what I assume I have left. And every year I'm moving one marble from the jar to the other jar. And I'm watching this jar decrease over time. And that helps me think back on how am I spending my time and investing my time. And we mentioned on Monday, you don't always know how much time you've got. We all assume we have all the time in the world, right? That's what we always say. And I think I mentioned that on Monday, but we don't know. So how are we investing our time is this big thing. And two books that may be of interest to you. I know they were of interest to me early on, and I still take an opportunity periodically to go back and read them. One of those was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you've ever read it, great book, rolls into cash flow quadrants. There's a whole series of Rich Dad stuff, but mainly the premise is financial education. How do you get your money to work for you so that you can free up some time or achieve whatever you're working on? And that's sort of the premise of it. I'd encourage you to check that out if you haven't had an opportunity. Your local library probably has it for free. So the other book was a Tim Ferriss book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And another great book. And I see you giving it the thumbs up. I'm sure you've had an opportunity to read that as well. And there's a lot of great little anecdotes and gold nuggets within that book as well as it relates to time freedom, how a lot of people are doing work for work's sake, and how most of us just want to have all of these experiences in our life. But a lot of us end up just allocating our time working. And to me, that seems pretty crazy when you step back and you look at the big picture, right? And that's sort of where I started my journey at, 25, 30 plus years ago. I'm 40 years old right now, but looking at, what's the game plan? What's the game plan? What's the path that everybody says, here's what you have to follow? And when you take a step back and look at that, it's pretty easy to understand. I think all of us were taught this same thing, right? Go to school, get a good job, work for 40 years, take a portion of every check and invest it from the time you're, 15, 20, 25, all the way up through 65. And hopefully, if you've been diligent enough, you've worked hard enough, you've saved enough, you've been frugal enough, you'll have a big pot left over that you can draw from in your later years. And hopefully you've got enough time left to enjoy that. And as I was researching that and, continuing on in my education, it was very apparent to me that process, although beneficial, was somewhat flawed because the statistics out there are saying that it doesn't work for a majority of people. In fact, when you look at the statistics, a majority of people who are approaching that ideal retirement age that they say is 65, they keep bumping it up and stuff, but that they say is 65, don't have enough saved up in order to retire. They didn't or weren't able to follow that prescribed path. And you have to ask yourself this question, like, why? Was it because it was too challenging? Was it because it was too hard? Was it because life happens in all reality and you just don't start soon enough? We spent a little bit on the topic of compounding last week, and that's really what that boils down, right? The compound interest effect of the traditional model. But you got to start early and you got to be consistent with it over time. And here's the reality, 80% plus of people are not going to be in that boat. And when you look at the statistics on it over time, you're supposed to start young, right? 20 years old and do it for 40 years. But if you didn't start and you got late to the game, maybe you started in 30, maybe you started in 40, maybe you weren't able to do any contribution and you started in 50. What do you need to do for the last 15 years as opposed to the first 20 years? And there's a lot of numbers that get tossed out there, but the reality is the sooner you can start, the better. But after doing all of this research, I came to realize that there possibly might be alternative paths, alternative vehicles, and alternative ways. And really, if the ultimate goal is retirement, then how do you work backwards from that goal to the current situation and find a better or faster path to get there. And I'm not saying an overnight path, but a faster path. So, Ruben, you have a comment on this. Please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, this is this is just a personal comment that I have. In this coming July, I'll be 79 years old. When I left the West Coast to venture into different particular companies that I was affiliated with or started with, at that time, I just was into activity and into the excitement of starting a business.
Yep.
And serving the public with that business. When I did officially retire from the last company that I was with, that evening when I made my presentation, I said my farewells, I said to them, I said, the word retirement is, in my mind, should be changed. Now, look, what do you mean? I said, it should be retreadment, like
right.
retreading a tire.
Yeah.
Life goes on until there's no life.
Yep.
Okay. So it's like, a balloon filled with air, it climbs and climbs. And if it fizzles, it fizzles. So my perspective has always been, no matter what, age is still a number.
Yep.
It's gradual, whatever. But the activity, the daily activities that, number one, gives you passion and serves other people is a winning formula.
Absolutely. No, and thank you for sharing that, Ruben. Absolutely. I think there's so much truth into that. Yeah, I see Kathy's giving you an amen there. And Anna, I saw your comments as well. And I want you to maybe come in and give some thoughts to this and contribute to the conversation here. I do know one of the things that I got out of the Tim Ferriss book and some of these other books that I've read, and all the way up through Edge Global and the Mindset of a Champion stuff that we offer on Wednesdays, was living a life by design, right? Not what other people are saying, here's what you should do. And it's your comments, you know what I mean? And, that type of stuff. But if you want what somebody else has, follow the path that they led to get to that. I always say success leaves clues. So if you're trying to go down that path, it's only a matter of educating yourself with the knowledge and the skills that others have used to get there. So Anna, I'm going to pass it over to you. Please give your thoughts on all of this. And thank you for your comments in the chat.
Well, thank you so much, ER. And this is my first time participating on this call. And I'm sorry I missed it in the past, but life happens. I learned about shitting on myself when I was 40 years old.
Yeah.
Now, I grew up in a family of 4 boys and a girl. I was the second oldest, and I was the babysitter, dishwasher. I did all the women things. And my mom kept saying, you should do this and you should do that, and what to do in school. And you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't be this way. And I followed that right into my corporate life. And that went on. I mean, I was very successful in corporate America, believe me, because I did what I should, right? Yep. I was a very picture perfect person. But one night I was listening to a Christian speaker, Jean. And I just had her going, and while the TV was on and I was working away, and she got really quiet for a minute, and she said, Jean Meyer, that's what her name is. She said, stop shitting on yourself.
Yeah. Because
it's a distraction doing what others think you should do.
Yeah.
And that's why really successful people say, in the mornings, set your me time. Be with yourself so you can start your day reminding yourself of what your goals are and how you want to get there. Yeah. And you should watch this TV show. You should go to this movies. You should go to the zoo. You need to take your kids this way. And oh no, you shouldn't think that way. Well, that's our whole society right now is, I think this way and you shouldn't think that way, and it's all battle. It's all distraction. It's all stuff. And don't sweat the small stuff. It's all stuff. If it doesn't pertain to what you want, and need in your life and what you're headed towards. It's just stuff. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And it's amazing how clarity walks into your life. And that happened to me at 40. And that's when I met my second husband. And we had 20 blessed years together, the happiest 20 years of my life. And when he left, I was left with that spirit of, I don't have to get remarried.
Yeah.
Residual income was the key there.
Yeah.
Because the money kept coming in, even though he was dying and he died and I had to go through all the stuff, the income kept coming in. But don't let your feelings keep you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Don't let your other people's opinions stop you, because they'll get past it and you'll still be moving forward.
I thank you so much for that, Anna. That is so good. And I really appreciate you sharing that and sharing some of your story on there as well, because there's so much truth in that, right? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? All of those things. And I don't think a lot of people take an opportunity to even step back and think about that, right? They've been hearing from everybody else, this is what you should, and
even how you should feel.
Yep.
You should feel this way.
Yeah. Isn't it the truth? Isn't it the truth? And when you take a step back and you look at that and you say, maybe that's not right, and you start addressing that and looking at that, you can impact change. You can go in a different direction. You can do those types of things.
And that's the purpose of reading.
Yes.
Read,
so true.
read, to feed your mind with alternatives to the day-to-day life out here.
Yeah, knowledge is power, right? We hear it all the time, but what most people don't know what that means. It means when you fill up yourself with all of this information, you're now more informed to make different decisions and make decisions for yourself. And I think that's very powerful. I think another thing that you made a comment on towards the end of that was residual income. And when I think about time freedom, I really, and we brought this up on Monday, we mentioned it a little bit on Tuesday talking about efficiencies, but I think so many people get caught up in this trap of trading dollars for hours, right? Dollars for hours, and depending on, growing up, hey, I did the same thing, traded dollars for hours, and I was making that first entry level job or whatnot, making a little bit of extra money to pay and do the things that you wanted to. But you don't realize that there are alternatives to dollars for hours. There are plenty of people out there. I was talking to Guy, and Guy's, leveraging some time freedom right now. He's out of the cold. He's in Scottsdale right now, enjoying some sunshine. And we were talking through all of this stuff, and he was staying at a house, and the person who owns the house is an author, and he held up this book, and he's like, oh, look, he's got his books all around the house. And I said, wow, there's a residual income approach, right? Just one example. The person took some time, they invested their time, they sat down and they put their knowledge into copy, created content, and that content is out there available. And every time somebody purchases that content,
it's a piece of it.
It's a piece of it, right? It's a piece of it. And the more popular it is, or the more in demand it is, the more that comes in. Again, it's completely unrelated to time. I always talk about the example of the singer, right? You sing into a microphone, you record your voice, and then it gets put on, back in the day, a record or a cassette or a DVD, or a CD, or now in a digital download. And then every time somebody comes in and does that, or Ruben, I know you do painting, but I had a friend who was an artist and did a lot of prints. So they would come up with a print series. They would invest all of their time, mixed media, create a whole series, and then put it in the gallery and, open it up. And yep, now the work was done. And every time somebody bought one of those prints in that series, they made some money. And again, it's just a different path, a different vehicle. But when you disassociate the time and the money thing, it actually frees it up. And when you start thinking about, where am I investing my time? The same thing we talked about last week. Yep. In the whole compounding effect of investing your money, there are things you can do with your time where if you invest it, it can actually compound for you, free up time down the road because you're doing the work now. And I sort of used that example about the gentleman who lives in the village. There are two gentlemen. One is going to the river, getting a bucket of water, bringing it back to the village and selling a bucket. Then he goes back to the river, gets a bucket of water, brings it back to the village, sells the bucket of water, right? He is supplying water to the village. And then there's another man, a gentleman, and he picks up a shovel and he starts digging from the village a trench. And the other guy keeps walking by him back and forth, carrying his bucket of water while this guy is digging the trench. And the guy's just shaking his head with the bucket like, hey, I'm making money hand over fist here selling this bucket of water. Well, eventually the guy digs the trench to the river and diverts a portion of water down the trench directly to the village. And he sells the opportunity for people to fill up their bucket in the village. Now he's put this other guy out of business, or he has to drop his bucket price, but work just as hard. And this guy has done the work once. And for the rest of the life of that trench, he gets to monetize it over and over and over again. And in fact, when he passes, his kids inherit, the trench, and they're selling the water and everything like that. And I think that's this sort of aha moment that there are things, there are knowledge, there are skills, there are paths, there are vehicles, there are process that you can implement if you're willing to look for them and learn them and apply them. Ruben, you talked about taking massive action, right? And doing these things daily. And then the end result is you start to free up your time.
I'm going to interject just a little bit right at this point.
Please.
This is really important. Remember that as you're doing your path and going down this road and building and building and building, stay focused on your ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm.
What is the life purpose of this? And stay with things that you are passionate about, that you're interested in. Stay in that area. Don't divert yourself because there's I could make more money over here. It's not about making more money. It's about everything coming together to reach your goal.
100%.
Because you will make money.
100%. I mean, look, money is out there. There's opportunities out there. There's always going to be somebody who will buy your time. You know what I mean? Think about that. There's always going to be somebody who will buy your time. And the reality is when you step back and think about that as well, anybody who's buying your time, they're not paying you what your time is worth, because they wouldn't pay you what your time is worth, and because it wouldn't generate a profit for them on your time.
They're paying you what they think the job is worth.
Exactly. And you're willing to exchange it for that. I think, Anna, you made some great comments, and I think it's about finding out who your authentic self is, right? Like, who do you want to be? Not who everybody tells you need to be, but who do you want to be? And who do you want to be at any stage of your life, and not getting distracted from that. We've talked about this wheel of life. It's in our affiliate asset stuff, but it's a great little thing. I think the big thing on here, Anna, that I think about, there is a spoke for financial, right? That's the money thing. There is a spoke for career, but there are all these other spokes. And if you get so fixated on one, and I see that people get so fixated, I need the money, or I need it now, and then they get into that trap. When you realize, like, do you want to sacrifice your physical health for money? Big question. I know plenty of people who are wealthy or rich, but they are unhealthy. Yeah, you know what I mean? They are unhealthy. Or your family. How many people can you think of who've lost time with family or even estranged from their family because they got so fixated and focused on money. Or the stress, lose your sanity because you're so focused on the money. Or here's a big one, let your spirituality fall in lieu of money. There's something about serving two masters that comes to mind when you start thinking about those types of things. And really, I think about it as independent of where you are right now. If you think about where you want to go, what your authentic self is, and you start diligently chipping away towards that, you will reach that goal.
That's the value of that wheel of life. Paul
Yes.
J. Meyer really drew that out well, because at certain times in our life, we're not going to be in balance. We're just not. There's going to be certain times where we have to focus on other things. But doing that wheel of life on a regular basis lets us identify where we need to build our strengths and where we need to lessen our focus to get more focused on who we are, what our life really is. I love that. I love that wheel.
Well, and this is one of those things about time, right? The argument that Edwin and Michael would make is we don't manage our time. In fact, we prioritize it. And the point, Anna, that I think you're making on the wheel of life is if you're neglecting one spoke, you can prioritize that spoke and invest more of your time in
block
that
it.
area, you know,
Time
and
block
really
it.
try to bring that up and balance that out. But unless you're measuring it, where are you going? Unless you're managing it, where are you going? And that's part of the whole concept, right? You get into that trap of being chasing that next shiny object or looking for that instant gratification. That's what I see from most people, right? They if I just had $1 million, all my problems would be solved. Yeah. How many times have we all thought that or heard that, right? And the reality is that's not the case. In my mind, money is just a tool. So if you had $1 million, it's a brick of bills like this wide by about this tall, you know what I mean? And it's sitting there.
It's what you can make it do.
And that's part of it, right? You want your money to work for you, but you also want your time to work for you. And I think that's that concept. So one thought I want to throw out there for everybody is, have you ever thought what your time is worth? You know, if you're one of those people who freely exchange time for money, you probably have a good idea of what you're charging. But I would make the argument that one, you're underselling yourself. You're selling yourself short. And two, you're not calculating it correctly, because you would say, oh, I work from 8 to 5 and I get this much per hour, or maybe you're on salary. It's even challenging there because now they're putting more on your plate and you have to get it all done. And it doesn't matter how much time it takes because it's your responsibility. But when you factor in and allocate that distribution of income over time, you typically forget the other things. Are you factoring in your commute time? You know, my wife, before we had kids,
home.
Yeah, you know, what you take home, what you lose in taxes and things like that. When we had
baseball
kids,
games and practices.
all of that opportunity cost, Anna, to your point, right? What am I missing out on? That's a huge thing that you have to weigh in. Other expenses, right? If you commute to a job, are you spending money to go and earn money? There's gas, there's insurance for your car, there's all of that type of stuff, the maintenance, those types of things. And I think when you sit down and you actually go through it, you'd be a little bit surprised and probably a little bit disappointed. And this is what I'm selling myself for, because that's really what you're doing. You're selling your time.
And it's amazing how many people are really working for minimum wage or less.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, after they calculate all the things that they spend, you know, the clothing, the lunches, you know, the break time, you got to pick up more stuff at the store because, you know, you've got to do this or that. But when you start calculating that all and you start deducting that from your salary or your wages, you start looking at it and you are, you know, flipping hamburgers for a living. Cost-wise, I mean,
yes.
Value-wise, you are giving yourself away.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people learned that during COVID.
Well, and I think, Anna, you're 100% right? We talk about this as the Great Resignation. We talk about the shift going into now the labor shortage and things like that, where people are actually valuing their time, right? We all got to this point where we're like, and I think this is a factor. We realize how short time is when we are faced with something that puts life into perspective, and how finite and how valuable your individual life is. And I think that's something that once we all step back on, like I realized that early. I had a tragedy in my life that put life into perspective at a very young age. And it allowed me to reflect on that whole thing and change how I viewed my life and my time. It also put into perspective the value of everybody else's life and how much I value your guys' time and your guys' lives, and how I'm on a mission to make that better for everybody, you know? And this is one of those things, if you were listening this far and you took an opportunity to calculate what you feel that your time is worth, and then we sort of jarred you with this, it's actually worth less when you're factoring in all of these things. That's the reality check. Now, how do you change it? And I think that's the core topic we really want to focus on for the last half of this mastermind. And my argument is, you're not going to change it overnight. Okay, that's the reality check. Everybody's looking for that overnight change. If you're looking for that, you might as well buy a lottery ticket, because that's what most people are doing when they toggle from one shiny object to the next shiny object. They're looking for the big win, the quick win, the overnight success. And look, if you're looking for an example of that, you're going to find it, right? There's always people out there who have experienced that, but it's the exception, not the rule. So how do you go from maybe you're working 80 hours a week, Anna, to your point, earning minimum flipping burgers wages, and you want to change that? My thought and my contribution to the conversation is, what time do you have that you're in control of? Because unless you're working,
what time can you create
yes,
to be in control of? What can
100%.
you trade out? Yeah,
100%. You know, I mean, and there'll be people out there who will argue, look, if you want to free up an hour, you can get up an hour early. You can go to sleep an hour late. You can skip that lunch that you had. You can, free up or create that time, Anna, that you're talking about. But once you do, then the question is, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to invest it? Because I know a lot of people out there, they get done with that shift, and then all they want to do is just relax, veg out, consume, get entertained.
They're so working like this on the little wheel of life, just going like this, that they don't have the time or don't take the time to stand back and say, what's important to me?
Yep.
And that's why even the busiest person in the world can find somewhere between 5 and 7 hours a week that they can build their business. And there's a way to factor that in hundreds of businesses that will help you start that ball rolling towards having your own financial stream and not dependent on other people.
And I think that's so important to highlight, Anna, because a lot of people don't see it that way, right? They don't realize that path is available, and they get stuck in that trap. And I'm not going to tell you that, this path is better than this path, or this vehicle is better than this vehicle, et cetera. It's that the time for dollars vehicle will never compare to the leverage my time, produce some residual income, maybe build a business, but diligently work towards that so it builds over time.
Be cautious about building a business, because in most cases, all you're doing is changing this boss, and now you're billing your time, but all you've done is bought yourself a job.
I love that you brought that up, Anna, because, as we segue over into this, and you talked about freeing up a time, you talked about the average person can probably free up 5 to 7 hours. Think about that. I want to go back to the wheel of life, because it's not always about money. Let's say your health is something you want to work on. If you freed up 5 to 7 hours a week, and you invested that on the health side, the physical side, or the mental side, or the spiritual side, or the family side, that would have an impact. It would have a complete impact. If you focus it on something that starts to free up more time, right? Because I think about it like a business. I think about life in a way like a game or like a business, right? You have inflows and you have outflows. And the reality of time freedom, like this is the secret equation, is if you can passively and residually have more coming in than you have going out, you have 100% control over your time. And then you can choose how to invest it. If you're not there yet, how can you free up that extra hour, that extra 2 hours? How does it go from working 7 days a week to 5 to 4 to 3, to 2 to 1? And again, depending on where you want. It's an incremental thing.
Build your habits on an incremental basis, little steps, build on little steps, and it's compounding, as you were demonstrating before. It compounds, no matter how little it is, it compounds. And that's how you buy your freedom back.
Isn't that crazy? But I mean, it sounds so simple, but most people aren't implementing it. And then if they do, literally it happens over time. You start to validate and see that stuff. Going back to the physical stuff, right? November, December of last year, in 2021, I had gained some weight, and I'm like, oh, my physical stuff just seems like it's slipping. I don't know if I'm finding the right amount of time to get my physical stuff done. What's important right now is what we call it the win list item. We prioritize our time. What was important right now is to allocate some time to my physical activity. So what did I do? I said, look, I'm going to before the kids get up, before the chaos of the day happens, I'm going to focus on me and check that thing right off the list. And I started getting up at 5 a.m. every day. And it starts with doing a walk. And then that walk started turning into a mile or 2 miles of walk. And then it turned into a jog. Then it turned into adding some swim in, and the change just in this short first quarter of the year is measurable. And I think that's the thing I want to throw out to everybody. Whatever gets measured can get managed, and if you measure it and you look back on it, you can say, wow, I am making forward progress, because we talk about that valley of despair, right? We mentioned it earlier in the year when we set our goals. We all think very linear. Everything goes like this. And we have this trough where there's this valley of despair where we're 1 week in, 2 weeks in, 4 weeks in, and we're just not where we thought we would be. And so the alternative is to give up and go back to where we were before, because that's comfortable. But if we just stick with it, like I say, you give it at least 90 days, maybe 6 months, ideally a year of diligent stuff, and see where it's at. Because imagine this, Anna, if you can carve out 5 to 7 hours, the average person in a week, and they could do that for 52 weeks, right? 5 times 10 is 50. Times 5 is 250, something about that in my mental math. That's 250 hours, back of the napkin math, that you could apply to going into the direction of anything you wanted to go in. I see, Jeff, you're back in town. Good to see you. I want to throw this out and get your thoughts on this, because you are and have for a while been a tennis coach, right? And some of the highest level of achievement with your teams and stuff like that. I have never played tennis in my life. Mm-hmm. We've got some nice tennis facilities around the neighborhood. I always see my neighbor out with her racket and stuff like that. If I had 5 hours a week, an hour a day to work on my game, going from 0 to what, and I did that for 52 weeks, would I at least be able to play? Do you think I could keep up with the average person and have fun with my neighborhood? What would the expectation that you would set as a coach for me if I came to you and I said, Jeff, I'm going to hire you as my personal tennis coach. I'm going to pay you an hour by the hour, assuming you would sell your time to me for that hour, right? And I will follow the program because you have the knowledge and the skills that I want you to apply to me. Set the expectation for me.
Well, first of all, you got to have the right coach, and that's a good start. And then the first thing I look at is, obviously you're a good athlete already, and so that's the biggest thing. So we all, whether it's business or sports or whatever, you already have a certain level of inherent capability, and you can that you can escalate that thing pretty fast. Over my years of teaching, I had some people walk up to me for their very first lesson, and I prejudged their physical, size, their skills. And I took this one gal who had children. She'd used to be lean. She'd put on a lot of weight, and she wanted to play tennis. She'd never swung before. She turned herself into, with my guidance, the best woman player at our club, and it became a lifelong passion. She lost weight, and so there's other things to it. Sure. And so I want to say that, and again, when I coached my guys, high school teams and my women for Drake over the years, it was about not just what they can do with the racket, but what goes in, all these things that you're talking about with the right mindset and all the guys and stuff. So really, it doesn't really matter. You can say tennis, pickleball, how to build an Elify card. It really doesn't matter. If that person, like you just described yourself, has that willingness to commit X amount of time, get the right kind of coaching. And again, you don't have to hire me. You can just get somebody that, whatever, but somebody who's willing to go out there and show you the right way to do it. Either it could be an online course, which is part of my future plans, we're doing pickleball and tennis online courses coming up soon. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that you're 100% right. You have your innate skill level and then what you're willing to commit to it. And again, I didn't grow up with money. I'm not the guy that I didn't even understand what tennis pros were. Here I am, I made my career, charging a lot of money to feed balls. And I'm like, crap, I grew up in Little Mason City hitting balls against the backboard and running hills in the park and signing up for local tennis tournaments and playing with people twice my age. And I was able to become a Division I player and play number one and et cetera, et cetera. And so I took the path that I didn't get a lot of what you just described. But if you have the time to go out with or without a coach, at least have the basics of what you're supposed to do and you practice correctly. So I've seen it from both sides. I've been the kid that we didn't have enough money hardly to send me to rec lessons, let alone, hire fancy tennis pros and all that, which we didn't have in our town. It really has to do with your commitment to do the thing, whether it's learn how to, I see so many people even inside, let's bring it back to Elify, that are still struggling to, copy, paste, send, and to, put an image in, or to, or to take the time to write copy, which again, you guys all know that I will hammer this till the day I die. Your copy is the number one thing that you
100%.
need. And so that's why I've been trying so hard to contribute on the copy side of things. But anyway, that's my quick answer. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
100%, Jeff. And I think that's the reality of it. It doesn't matter what you're going down the path of. If you're willing and open to contribute some time and energy and effort and be consistent with that. Ruben, we talked about taking massive action on that, and it's going to be up to you. You're going to make forward progress. Going back to my whole physical thing of just walking, I have to do something physical every day. That's the goal, right? Something physical every day. And in my mind, maybe it's at a minimum, walk a mile. How long does it take to walk a mile? Maybe 15, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? But I think in the big picture of all of those things summing up, I'm going to be better off 365 days from now because I will have put in 365 miles at a minimum. And the option here is I could try and do all of that day one, right? Those ultra marathoners who go out there and they run 100 miles and they do it in 2 days and check it off the list. And that's an option, right? That's a path. But I don't have the time or the wherewithal or the grit. I would just be crawling, 20 miles in. But what I've seen just in the last quarter is I'm no longer doing a mile a day, right? I started to build momentum, to Jeff's point. I started to see some progress that was measurable, and it created that mindset, that motivation to continue to forge along. And I'm super excited. Did it stink when it snowed 5 inches and I got up at 5 a.m. to get to the pool by 6 a.m. and do my coached swim for an hour? Absolutely. You know what I mean? It was horrible. I'm not going to be the sunshine and rainbows type of person to say I was just jumping at the bit to go. But now that it's over with, I'm so happy I did it. And I know what I'm going to expect. Well, I don't even know. I know it will be awesome a year into this thing. Because I'm already blown away with that progress. Now, Scott, you've been sitting here with your hand up. I really appreciate your patience on this. I know even in your profession, the value of diligent, repeated effort over time probably impacts people's lives. But I want to throw it over to you. Comment, question, anything like that. Go ahead.
Sure. Actually, thinking about what Jeff just said about the tennis pro, I want to bring it back to and talk to the Elify pro here, because you're talking about consistent act. You mentioned consistent action and effective practice, and I think that word effective is so important. And so I guess I would turn it back to you and say, as somebody who's trying to grow in the realm of an Elify affiliate, what would you say would be the effective, consistent action of an Elify affiliate? Maybe in whether be like 3 steps of daily methods of operation, and then how to cast that vision to other people. Is it more about trying to cast the vision, or is it more about consistently trying to locate people to collaborate with who already have an eye for the vision?
Yeah, great question, Scott. And I appreciate you bringing this full circle back on the Elify side. The answer is it's a combination. Right. The first step for everybody, and this is truly the first step, is how is Elify going to impact you and your life right now. Nobody else around you. Let's focus just on you. And we talked about it a little bit on Tech Tuesday with Kathy on Tuesday of how are you leveraging Elify in your daily life right now. That's the first thing I ask everybody, because whether you're an affiliate or not, you should be a customer first. You know what I mean? And you should find value in what Elify is offering. You know, I tell people right now, if you don't find value in our technology, like stop using it. You know, there are people who find value in the technology, right? Whether that's Shuffle and some of the functionality of Shuffle, whether that's Tap and the functionality of Tap, even the affiliate program is an Elify offering. So you want to be thinking about that. But I come back and say, at the end of the day, we're promoting a tool here that helps you do stuff, right? Digital business cards. So introducing yourself, marketing content, any type of collateral, going back to what Jeff was saying. And we're going to probably, maybe this is a next week topic, Jeff, copy, because content is king, but your content has to be good because otherwise it won't have the effect and impact that you're trying to do, you know? So that's going to be an important thing, right? So when we think about Shuffle, I think about the networking side of Shuffle, and I think about the marketing side of Shuffle. How are you leveraging Shuffle in what you're doing right now? Scott, that's the first thing, because when you can figure that out, man, that's half the battle. Once you have that, now you have a story to share with others. And I think that takes you to the other side of what you're talking about. I want to be an affiliate. I want to help spread Elify to the world. And I want to stake my claim in a piece of the revenue that generates. And when I think about a guy, and I talk about this all the time, right? He mentioned it on a call yesterday. Did you know business cards are the #1 business marketing tool today, right now? Why? Every business owner, every business person, most likely the moment they started, they got a business card, or when they got a new job, they got a business card. So much so, 27 million business cards are printed every day. Think about that. 27 million business cards are printed every day. If you want to do some fast math, maybe they're worth a penny a piece. You know, how much a day is being spent on business cards? And this is just one element that Shuffle can support anybody with, okay? If you're not using Shuffle as a digital business card, then you're not going to lean in that path. But if you, every time you meet somebody, you're introducing yourself with that digital business card, you're connecting with that digital business card, you're tapping your digital business card, then that's creating a value for you that you can share with other people. So you're looking for that thing. But 27 million, something like 10 billion with a B, billion business cards are being produced every year. Okay, this is what weighs heavy on my shoulders here. Okay, as my authentic self, I like the environment. I'm environmentally friendly. I live in Colorado. I enjoy the outdoors. I support a lot of that type of stuff. Is the sheer waste. Okay, this may be the #1 tool, but here is the reality: 90% of business cards will be thrown away within 3 days of being received. Think about that. You do all of this 27 million getting printed a day, 90% of that is going to go in the circular filing cabinet. Somebody might scan it right now.
The other 90% go in Kathy's box.
Right? Did you see Kathy's box? Like, she is going to win the award for most business cards collected, because we got to run a competition where we'll all just collect cards and then we'll spin up these free business promo cards to go out and help those people save that stuff. I think about, like, how much did we get behind killing the plastic straw? You know, there are literally forests of renewable trees or even old growth that are just being wasted away for somebody to grab your card and for 9 people out of 10 to throw it in the garbage can, let alone the pools of ink or anything else that goes into the creation of these things. And we all have the opportunity, just leaning into that one thing, to give everybody in the world a better way to introduce themselves, a more interactive way, all of that type of stuff. Jeff, you've got some points to add.
I know a lot of people, real estate is a big one. Here's a good example.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have known this, maybe you don't or not, but I lost, my brother a few years ago, and then mom a year ago, and dad just recently. And so I've got a lot of stuff. My dad was a trucker farmer. We've got old trucks and house, just old stuff and so one of my best friends from high school, she's a realtor, standing in the parking lot, we're freezing, and there's another guy standing there, and she's, and so she's networking, right, as a realtor, because she's working for me, looking at the properties and whatnot. And she goes, "Oh, here's my card, Francis. Nice to meet you." And I said, "Jennifer, really? You're still using paper business cards?"
Yeah.
And I can say that to her because she's a friend. She goes, "Oh, I know." She goes, "Well, I now have 20 realtors, and you've got to get together." So I'm going to do a video call. I won't tell you what software we're going to use, but it ain't Zoom. Anyway, I'm going to get on with her and her team, whoever, and do it that way. But also, that's the more manual way. But then there's automated way too, where I'm going to be. Again, I have some big plans, but one of them is just to do a simple video where whenever you hand out your Elify card, if you don't have your personalized video on there,
Yep.
shame on us, because you can put all the copy and all the links to your, whatever, your third party, deals, gigs, whatever. But if you're not on there saying a simple script, which I'm more than happy to give you guys a framework to what you should say in that introductory video, hold your iPhone up, do it, boom, YouTube, whatever, get your Loom. I use SensePark now, and just do a quick video and slap it in there. And you have that actual elevator pitch, or better than an elevator pitch, because most people don't have a clue how to put together a high caliber, Frank Kern, all these other guys. I was studying Kern all morning, and I just wrote some copy on freedom, on a freedom business. And so this is my copy that I just wrote. You guys can't have it. It's very good copy, but it has to do, and then I just turn it into a VSL, slap it into an Elify card, and I'm automated.
Yep.
And if I do want to then take it to the personal one-on-one video call, that's the next step. Online is nothing more than a lot of times taking things offline, either person to person or through video chat or whatever, and moving a person to the next step. So hopefully that's answering the question that you can bumble and stumble into that contact, but then follow up with a legitimate card that's impressive, that they say, "Crap, I need this for my business," the way that Jeff's doing his business.
Exactly.
End of summary.
Jeff, I appreciate that, because I think going back to Scott's question, that's what it is. Step one is identifying how the technology is going to support you in what you do. Why? Because that creates a story that is your personal story, because when you are meeting people, they want the authentic truth of how this has helped you. What's the example, the real world example of how this has helped Scott? You know what I mean? And again, it could be two different things, right? It could be how the technology has helped you. It could be how the affiliate program has helped you, so you can create your own story. I like to simplify the story, Jeff. It's pretty easy, right? Here's who I am. Here's how I learned about this X product, right? In this case, it's Elify, it's Shuffle, it's Tap. Here's how I'm using it. You know what I mean? I use it as a business card. I use it as promotional material. I use it as a CRM. I use the QR codes. I use the Tap technology. Again, you pick and choose what you're using. Don't try to promote something you don't use. That's like giving a recommendation to a restaurant you've never eaten at. Think about that. I love this place. You do? No, I've just never eaten there, but you should go there. No, people want to know that you go to that restaurant twice a week, that you order anything off the menu and it's excellent, and that the service and price and everything that you get there is second to none. And then they're going to stake your credibility on that recommendation and go there based off of your influence on them. Like Anna was talking about earlier, where people are saying, you should go check out this restaurant. You know what I mean? We all have that influence on other people, and we're all doing it all of the time. So here's who I am. Here's how I learned about this. Here's how I use it. Here's what it's done for me, the result, right? That's the big thing that people are looking for, because if they're looking for you to be their guide, they're looking for what is the measurable result that you've achieved. When I'm looking for that tennis coach, I don't go to the guy around the block who has a racket, but he's 2 days ahead of me. I go to the guy over here whose name is Jeff, and he's been Division I athlete, a coach who's won state championships, all of these other things in that pedigree of that experience so that I can try and glean some of that and apply it in my own life. So when they say this is what it's done for me, have some results for that. You know, when Michael Ray says, look, I used my digital business card to post online when people were in forums asking for a general contractor, and I did it for my contracting business, and it's won us over $1 million+ in 2021 in new business. That's a testimonial. That's his experience of how he's used it and what it's done for them. And he can then be the guide that turns around and shows somebody else how to achieve something similar, or at least put it into application. And so that's really what you want to be doing, Scott. As you do that, you become the credible guide to help anybody else implement this stuff because you've gone down the path before. And Jeff, go on ahead. I know you've got some thoughts on this.
Well, right. And that is. And so the mistake, though, that if you have expertise in a certain area, so let's say you're amazing at what you do in the tech world, but what you have to do is bring them back. That's why do you think I said I was a kid that I barely could afford a racket. I didn't have money for lessons. My folks, they supported me, but I had to go to the park and play. I wanted to take you back to where I was, not what and then because that's the worst thing too. People don't want to hear about bragging. They again, you have to do the credibility piece, but if you ever see my perfect selling formula, that social proof or that testimonial part, that comes in later. You don't brag about yourself. You do that through testimonials of others about your thing, your technology, your Elify software, whatever. But you always take them to the pain point. So there's several formulas that I like. One of my favorite is pain, PAS, pain, agitate, solution. But you have to take them back to, I recognize that you have a sore knee. And you know what? I was exactly where you were too. My knee used to hurt too until I discovered whatever, the Elify knee solution, whatever. Right. And I started to take that every day because E.R. Wolf told me about it. And now look at me, I can run but you don't start with the fact that I can run a 5-mile marathon. You go back to where I was, and that's the place that you were. And we're going to cross this bridge together. And I'm going to hold your hand and guide you over this impasse to get you to where your knee doesn't hurt anymore. You want to lose 10 pounds, or you want to learn how to build a better Elify card, or write better copy, or learn to hit a better backhand. Folks, it don't matter, but you have to go to the point of origin. You have to have an origin story when you hit the pit of whatever it was and how you got out of that pit. And that pit, how you got out of that pit was I found out about Elify. It's a simple solution. It's powerful. It's easy. Anybody can do it. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. See, I'm giving you bullet points right there. And just plug that into what you do, where you were, and how you want to get to where they want to go and what result they want, because you've experienced, right?
And Jeff, to your point, this formula, this process is applicable whether you're selling Elify or whether you're selling something else. Again, you know what I mean? I know how it is. I know where you're at. I was there too, right? Mm-hmm. And then take them back out of there. I think the other thing to realize, because a lot of us look at these gurus out there and we want to be like that guru, but we don't realize that guru probably started out in a similar spot where we were. And sometimes the gurus overlook that you're starting out at square one and that you've got to crawl before you walk, before you run. Every one of them wants everybody running or sprinting right out of the gate. In a lot of businesses, it's sink or swim, right? I'm going to throw 100 people into the deep end of the pool, and the 10 that swim, I'm going to keep on my team, and the other, 99 or 90, they're going to sort of go by the wayside. And that's just not how it should be, right? There is a process of starting from ground zero. It's getting yourself educated. It's learning some of the skills. It's applying those skills daily. It's creating your experience and your story, to Jeff's point, then coming back and relating to everybody at ground zero and showing them that you can be a support to help them get there, or that the mechanism that you're providing can provide that for them.
Yeah. ER, if you don't, I'm going to give some value. Okay. So I'm going to take out the thing that and I'm going to fill in Elify. Okay, I just wrote this today. And again, this is, so it's like I'm introducing myself. Hey guys, Coach Jeff Foggy here. And I'm about to show you in this video a breakthrough freedom lifestyle technology, right? Let's just fill in. We're going to use, I'm not going to say Elify, but I'm going to say technology, right? Or whatever you want to. So it's the generalization of the solution, which is Elify.
Yep.
That is easy to set up, more powerful, and simpler than anything out there today. Now, see what I just, simple. They want powerful, but simple. So now they're thinking to them, they got the wheels going. Next paragraph. And if you already have an existing business, this is one of the fastest and easiest ways to attract and retain your ideal clients and customers while creating a recurrent income stream. Because you get the tool to help your business, but what else do you get with Elify? You get the option to become an affiliate to create a passive income stream alongside of owning a barbershop or whatever.
Sure.
Without hassling with complicated tech or having to waste more of your valuable time and money on another expensive, shiny object, blah, 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 fill in the blank.
Yep.
You guys just take what I've given you right there and you can sell anything on the planet.
100%. 100%. And what I love about that, I want to call one thing out, Jeff, that you highlighted there, because I know there's a lot of businesses out there, products, services, et cetera, where the brand has potentially gotten a bad rap. You know, maybe there's other people out there who have knocked that brand, who have poo-pooed that brand, et cetera. And what you said is technology, right? You've generalized the area of focus without giving the brand away. You've created some intrigue and what is it? You know, they're leaning in. I want to find out what is that thing that Jeff's talking about, and maybe that's the call to action, right? If you want to know what this thing is, just reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation. I'd love to point you in the direction. I'd love to see if this is applicable to you. It can lead them down that path. All too often, I see people take what the parent company provides, verbatim, slap it out there. In an effort to run fast, spam everybody with it, and then just fall flat. And that doesn't work, right? What works is what Jeff is talking about. And Jeff, I think we're going to talk about copy and content next week because it is so powerful, because it's one thing to have a framework, right? I tell everybody, Elify and Shuffle. Shuffle is like an art gallery, okay? But you have to hang your art on the wall. But here's the reality. Most people are painting stick figures, and we need them to paint, you know, to Ruben's point, these impressionistic paintings that get the whole point across, but you got to learn how to paint. Jeff, you know, you got to learn how to write. You got to learn how to write some exciting copy, or you got to at least do what the best artists do, right? They steal in a way, right? They come out and they learn from those previous skills that other people have developed, and they apply their spin on it. And success leaves clues. You know, any one of us can go on Google right now. I love the Starry Night, Ruben. Thank you for sharing. You know, you can go out there and you can find great copy. And what's funny, and I read to my kids every night. This is one of those time freedom things. I've not had a bedtime where I haven't had an opportunity to read, but now we've gotten to the point where I will read the books, but I will switch out the words, right? Like if it's the animal's name, it's our pet's name. If it's a cat, it's now a dog. And it sounds like the story is about our family. And the kids just love it and they go wild. Look, I did not author any of those children's books that I am reading, but I am paraphrasing what is written and putting my spin on it to make it valuable for what I am doing or what I'm trying to accomplish. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, guys. This is about working smarter, not harder. We say that all the time, but what does that mean? Go out and find those examples, those benchmarks. Go out and find those people who are doing it successfully. You know what I mean? And it's not the person who's selling you the skill in most cases, because the selling of the skill is what gets them the income. It's the person who are applying the skill, and then look at what and how they're applying it, right? Look at the sites that are coming up. And if you want, I learned search engine optimization by reverse engineering every site that was highly listed on Google until I found out what they were doing. And then I applied it on our sites, and lo and behold, the rankings went up. Jeff, to your point, you didn't create all of this stuff just out of thin air. You found mentors and coaches, whether it be in person, online, or just through a guide, to educate yourself on how to write correct copy that works.
Yeah. Well, attraction marketing is what you were saying. But then if everybody wants to write down the 3 M's, and again, I learned this at a big convention I spent a lot of money to, where I learned about attraction marketing and online marketing. Mimic, model, make it your own. Don't ever copy word for word.
Mm-hmm.
Now that not everybody owns. I mean, there's a lot of, sentences and phrases that you'll see a lot of different people. It's because nobody owns a trademark on here's what you get, right?
Yeah.
I use that all the time. Here's what you get. And then I lead into my offer. Nobody owns that, but
Yeah.
from Frank Kern, Russell Brunson to guys that were, I studied copywriters clear back in the original days of the old newspaper, and I study those headlines and stuff. I love that stuff. I study everybody. You can't name a copywriter that I don't know, because I just soak it in. It's my new favorite toy to play with. And I get sometimes subtract, but the bottom line is it's make it your own, right? Model, mimic, make it your own. See what's out there that's working in your industry. Don't go looking what works in the shake weight loss industry and then apply it to some service, financial service or whatever. Go to the financial service. And there's some websites out there I'm happy to share later. I got it from Brunson, that you can click and you can go and you can hack what ads people are running and how successful those are. And you reverse engineer. That you said reverse engineering, dude, I reverse engineer everything. I start from the back end and I work it back forward. I record it and I study it. And if you do that and you invest in that, it makes you're gaining knowledge, but you're gaining knowledge from what works, not from the people who are out there, spamming and putting crap all over social media. And you just go, oh my God, you may get a couple sales, you may get a couple reps, but my God, you are just destroying your reputation and nobody will ever read your posts again.
Yeah.
I just read a thing on Kern started to use simple Facebook posts, no ads, no emails, and he's legendary. And he started to get all this activity just off some fun, silly posts. Hey, comment back if you want some information. It's not rocket science, you guys.
I love it. I love it. And I love it, Jeff, because look, you can acquire the knowledge. You can acquire the skills, right? You can carve out some time to do those things. Then you can carve out some time to apply that knowledge and apply that skill. And that's the key, right? Like you gotta write it down like what Jeff is doing. And then you got to put it on your content, right? You got to create the content out there and start getting it out there and getting it in front of other people. You got to measure it, right? What is working? Even, the old marketing adage, right? The shotgun approach. Let's throw it all up and see what sticks and then lean into what is sticking and get rid of the stuff that isn't. But look at what is already sticking out there, to Jeff's point, right? There's a lot of stuff that's already sticking, and then you can be very targeted on what you're applying and make sure it's applicable to what you're working on and where you're focused on. And then just start rinsing and repeating. It's not that you do it once and it automatically works. You do it over and over and over again, and you hone and polish that thing over time. And I think that's the reality there. Very, very powerful. I'll sort of wind this roundtable down with a quick little story of how I first was successful in online marketing and in affiliate marketing. And Jeff, to your point, I am an engineering mind. I'm an analytical mind. I will say this all the time. I'm a numbers guy. And I've talked about this before, Pareto's principle, right? The 80-20 rule most of us have heard about, right? 20% of the elements most likely in any area impact 80% of the results. I'm sure there are some things in tennis that are the core 20 things you need to know, or the 20% that really has an impact. And then the rest is just sort of dialing in the little things, that account, the 80% of little things that finish off that last 20% when you start to think about it. And how we did very successfully in affiliate marketing is we did it through search engine optimization, right? When people would go search for search terms, our sites would come up and we would dominate the search engines. Very early in 2000s, right? If you search for one of our keywords or our search terms, we owned 80 to 90% of the search results on the first 3 pages of Google. How did we do it? We reverse engineered Google's algorithm. We did what's called multivariable nonlinear regression analysis to put in all of the data we could gather about the listings that we wanted to compete against, then spin out that data to identify the 20% of variables on those pages that accounted for 80% of the search results. Then all we did is we focused on adjusting those variables on our pages. We optimized our pages. And once they were optimal above and beyond the competition, our sites would show up 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, and we would have the traffic come in. And then to Jeff's point, it's one thing to get your listing up and to get the eyeball. It's another thing for what the eyeball sees, right? We all have the ability to create with Shuffle digital content that is evergreen, that can be out there doing work for us while we're not working. But it needs to perform and produce for us, depending on what your goal is. Is it to get that sign up? Is it to get a new lead? Is it to schedule an appointment? You have to have that in mind going into what you're creating your content about. Is it providing value? Is it something silly and anecdotal, but it garners attention? These are all elements that play a role in what you're trying to accomplish. And then it's that whole process that you string it out, right? Maybe your content gets you massive amounts of appointments, but if you're not capitalizing on each appointment, there's an area for optimization there. And there's efficiencies in my mind that technology being leveraged and applied in the right area can help you gain. So guys, with that being said, I hope you've picked up something today that has helped you. I hope that you've at least at a minimum taken a step back and looked at, what do you think your time is worth? I hope that if you realize that your time is worth a lot more than you're exchanging it for right now, that you find areas to create more time, to then take that time and apply it to something that's going to pay you dividends in the future. And I truly believe we are all capable of making that choice to apply our time in areas that can impact us and free up more time. And my hope and my goal for everybody is, as you stick with this over time, you're going to free up and realize some time freedom. Maybe that's giving you an extra day off. Maybe that's eventually allowing you to work 2 or 3 days a week. Or if you're like Tim Ferriss, maybe it's allowing you to work a 4-hour work week and everything else is sort of automated. That choice and that path is up to you. And I hope that you all take an opportunity to walk down it. Last, in closing, a little bit of housekeeping items. Look, if you've been on this call and you've stuck around this long, clearly you've invested your time with us today. I want you to ask yourself, is there somebody that you know who you would want to invest their time in seeing and listening to what you've listened to? And if so, consider sharing this out or some other information about our Elify community out with those individuals. We only grow when other people know about what we're doing. The other thing is we've got 4 calls that we do every week. It's our 4-hour work week together. Those calls are on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So with this being our Thursday roundtable, our next call is going to be a Friday with the Founders call tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. I'd encourage you, feel free to jump on that. We're going to talk about anything and all things Elify. We want to hear from you and have that be interactive, and that will be the next call. I look forward to seeing everybody on that next call. I want to thank you again for taking and investing a little bit of your time today on a Thursday with me. I know I've gotten a massive amount out of it, and I hope that you have as well. And I will see